The sun bled red across the western sky, the kind of crimson that meant another long day had died in Silver Creek Valley. The town was quiet, too quiet, except for the creak of a windmill and the cry of a mourning dove over the riverbanks. A woman stood alone by the water. Her black dress fluttered in the wind like a torn flag. Her name was Evelyn Harper, once a rancher's wife, now the widow of a man shot down by outlaws 3 months past. She had buried him with her own hands behind the old cottonwood tree, and since then, the house had fallen silent. No laughter, no footsteps, only the lonely whistle of wind between empty walls. Every morning she came to the river to fetch water, and every evening she whispered her husband's name into the current, as if the water might carry her grief away. That morning, though, the peace broke. A sharp voice came from the path behind her. "Hold it right there, miss. Don't move." Evelyn froze. The sound of boots and spurs drew closer. A tall man stepped into view, wearing a star-shaped badge that caught the sunlight. His hat shadowed his eyes, but his voice carried authority. "Name's Sheriff Colt Matthews," he said. "You shouldn't be this far out alone. Dangerous country." Evelyn turned slowly. Her voice was quiet but firm. "I've been alone a long time, Sheriff. Ain't found a reason to change it yet." Colt studied her, seeing the strength behind the sadness. "Still, folks say a widow shouldn't fetch water from a river where bandits pass. They've been sighted again, near the canyon road." She lifted the bucket, ignoring him. "Bandits don't scare me much anymore." Something in her tone made him pause. He saw the shadow in her eyes, the look of someone who had already lost everything worth fearing for. He removed his hat. "I'm sorry about your husband. Caleb Harper was a good man." She hesitated, the sound of his name cutting deep. "He was, until your law failed him." Colt's jaw tightened. "You think I didn't try? Those men vanished before I could track him." She looked away, voice trembling. "Try harder next time." Then she walked past him, her bucket swinging, boots crunching over the dry ground. The sheriff didn't stop her, but something in her words stayed with him like a thorn in the chest. That night, Silver Creek buzzed with life. The saloon lights flickered, fiddles played, laughter spilled into the dusty street. Sheriff Colt sat alone at his desk, reading the same wanted posters he'd stared at for months. The McGraw gang, killers and thieves who had taken Evelyn's husband and half the valley's peace with them. He sighed, rubbing his temples. He'd promised himself he wouldn't get tangled in another woman's pain. Not since his own wife died 2 winters ago, leaving him with 2 little girls, Abby and June, who were the only pieces of light left in his world. A knock at the door broke his thoughts. He looked up, and there they were. 2 blonde-haired angels in nightgowns, holding a lantern. "Papa, we can't sleep," said June, the younger one. "The thunder's scary." Colt smiled faintly, the kind only a tired father knows. "All right, girls, come here." He lifted them into his lap, kissed their foreheads, and hummed a soft tune his late wife used to sing. As he rocked them, he stared out the window, lightning flashing over the plains, and thought of the widow by the river. The same loneliness he saw in her eyes lived in his own heart. By morning, the storm had passed, but the town was restless. Old Ben from the general store came rushing into the sheriff's office. "Colt, trouble out by Harper Ranch. Somebody set her barn on fire." Colt was on his feet before the sentence ended. He grabbed his gun belt, whistled for his horse, and rode hard through the rising dust. When he reached Evelyn's land, flames clawed at the sky. Her barn was half gone, and she stood with a rifle in her hands, hair loose, eyes blazing like wildfire. Colt leapt from his horse. "Get back, Evelyn." "I ain't leaving," she shouted. "They came for me again, the same men who killed Caleb." He fired a warning shot into the air, forcing the riders to scatter into the hills. When the smoke cleared, Evelyn dropped her gun, falling to her knees, coughing through the ash. Colt grabbed a blanket and wrapped it around her shoulders. "Easy now. You're safe." Her voice cracked. They said they'd be back, that they'd finish what they started. He clenched his jaw. Not while I'm breathing. Later that night, Evelyn sat by the sheriff's fireplace, wrapped in a quilt, her face pale but calm. Abby and June peeked out from behind the stairs, whispering. "Papa, who's she?" June asked. Colt smiled tiredly. "She's someone who's had a rough day. Let her rest." But the girls didn't listen. They tiptoed closer, their curiosity stronger than fear. The youngest, June, tugged on Evelyn's sleeve. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" Evelyn looked down, surprised. Her eyes softened as she smiled faintly. "No, sweetheart. Just tired." Abby tilted her head. "You're pretty. You look like Mama from the picture." The room went silent. Colt's breath caught. Evelyn's eyes flicked to him, confusion and pain mixing in the air. Then June said, softly but surely, "Can you be our new Mama?" Evelyn froze, tears glinting in her eyes. Colt stood, voice gentle but firm. "Girls, that's enough." But Evelyn raised a trembling hand. "It's all right," she whispered. "They didn't mean any harm." She turned toward the fire, her shadow long on the wall. "I stood alone too long, Sheriff. Maybe they just saw what I forgot to believe in." That night, when the fire dimmed and silence filled the house, Colt stepped outside onto the porch. The stars burned bright over Silver Creek, and he could hear Evelyn softly humming to the girls inside, the same lullaby his wife used to sing. For the first time in years, something inside him eased. Maybe the Lord was giving him, all of them, a second chance. The first light of dawn crept across Silver Creek Valley, painting the town in pale gold. Evelyn Harper stirred in her small cabin, brushing the ash from her sleeves. The fire from last night's barn attack had been contained, but the threat of the McGraw gang lingered like smoke in the air. She peeked through the window. Sheriff Colt Matthews was already outside, inspecting his girl's small garden and talking quietly to the townsfolk who had gathered. Abby and June were helping sweep the porch, their small hands busy, but their eyes full of curiosity and hope. Evelyn sighed. Her life had been chaos for months, but something about this morning felt different. Maybe it was Colt, maybe it was the girls. Maybe, for the first time, she felt like she belonged somewhere. The calm didn't last. A distant thunder of hooves broke the stillness. Evelyn's heart stopped. She raced outside, seeing dust clouds rising from the canyon road. Colt's eyes narrowed. "They're back," he muttered. His hand hovered near his holster. The McGraw gang had returned, at least 6 men, guns glinting in the morning sun. Their leader came McGraw sneering from the front. Evelyn froze for a split second, but the moment passed. She remembered the rifle by the cabin wall, Caleb's old hunting gun. With Colt's nod, she grabbed it, determination blazing in her eyes. "Stay inside," Colt shouted to the girls. "Papa," June cried, running to him. "I'm scared." Colt knelt, brushing her hair back. "I know, little one, but Mama here." He gestured toward Evelyn. "She's brave. Watch and learn." The town's dust exploded with gunfire. Colt, Evelyn, and a few townsfolk formed a defensive line near the general store. Evelyn's hand shook at first, but soon her aim was steady, each shot hitting a McGraw outlaw trying to break through. The girls watched from the porch, clutching each other, hearts pounding. Abby whispered, "She's like a hero, Papa." Colt's heart tightened. The woman he had only admired from afar now stood courageously in the storm. His admiration turned into something warmer, something deeper. After a tense half-hour, the gang retreated, riding back toward the canyon with gritted teeth. The town was safe for now. Smoke drifted from a few scorched fences, but no lives were lost. Evelyn lowered her gun, her body trembling. Colt approached, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You were amazing," he said softly. "I've seen a lot of shooters, but you fight like someone with nothing left to lose and everything to protect." She smiled faintly, wiping soot from her cheek. "I've had a lot of practice surviving." Colt chuckled, relief and admiration mixing in his voice. "You're more than a survivor, Evelyn. You're family now." Later that evening, The sheriff's cabin was alive with warmth. Abby and June pulled Evelyn toward them, insisting she sit beside them by the fire. "Do you promise to be our mama?" Abby asked, eyes shining. Evelyn felt tears prick her eyes. She glanced at Colt, who nodded gently. "I promise," she whispered. The girls cheered, and Evelyn hugged them both tightly. Colt watched silently, a faint smile crossing his face. For the first time in years, he felt hope and happiness, not just duty and sorrow. Over the next few weeks, life in Silver Creek Valley slowly returned to normal. Evelyn helped rebuild fences and barns, taught the girls how to sew and cook, and even shared quiet moments with Colt under the starlit sky. One evening, as they watched the sun dip behind the hills, Colt spoke. "You've changed this place, Evelyn. Not just the town, but us. Me." He nodded toward the girls, who were chasing fireflies. Evelyn leaned her head on his shoulder. "I think I finally found somewhere I belong." Colt kissed her forehead gently. "And we found you, all thanks to a couple of little girls who knew what their hearts wanted." The laughter of Abby and June echoed across the valley, blending with the sound of the river, the wind, and the settling dust of Silver Creek. Evelyn looked at the horizon, then at Colt, and finally at the girls. She had once stood alone, but now she had a home, a family, and a love she hadn't dared hope for. For the first time in years, her heart felt complete. Sunrise epilogue and new dawn. Silver Creek Valley thrived. The town grew stronger, but the story of the brave widow and the sheriff's family became legend. Travelers would tell tales of Evelyn Harper, the woman who faced outlaws, won hearts, and became the mother of two little girls who refused to grow up without her. Colt, Evelyn, Abby, and June often sat together on the porch at sunset, sipping warm cider. The wind whispered through the valley, carrying laughter, hope, and the promise of new beginnings. And in a land of dust, guns, and past scars, the widow who once stood alone had finally found her place, a home full of love, courage, and family.